Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
As always, want to invite everybody to join us on Patreon. This was a Patreon exclusive from yesterday with a big update from the Galactic Federation. Again, you could join for as little as $1 a month, less than $1 menu item a month that is just going to toxify you. Step away from the dollar menu.
Yes, and this energy here is going to make you very healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we want to thank everybody for their support. Did you know there was lead in ancient Rome city waters? This article here goes into some detail, which, by the way, when we look at what's going on in the world today, does it not feel like we are in more than one way living in ancient Rome? Doesn't it feel like this is the Roman Empire all over again? For those of you that have looked into history a little bit, history. Fluoride is the main ingredient in Prozac for a reason. It makes you apathetic. Your problems don't go away. You just no longer care about them. Water fluoridation, yeah, well, they say it's safe, yet I've seen also people saying, well, wait a minute now, on the toothpaste labels it says don't give to kids under a certain age, but then why is it in the water where they're drinking it?
Mm-hmm. So we're not doctors, and we don't take this as true medical information, run everything by your own doctor. However, I do have some pretty personal experience with this stuff, and it really, truly makes it so that you don't care. It's also, from my studies, it's a neurotoxin. So it literally can burrow like lesions in your brain and make it so you truly do not care. It creates brain damage. And unfortunately, this is something that I am coming back from, because I was on some of this stuff, different brands, but still, the doctors didn't know what to do with my brain, when all along I was someone who is very, very different, sees things from a different dimensional standpoint. And there were problems with me after I decided to stop doing this. And my whole life changed. And what I realized in retrospect is I was forcing myself to stay in a position that was killing me. And I was also forcing myself to be in a position where it was so unhealthy for me. And these pills that I took allowed for me to force myself to stay there. And then when I decided on my own, because I could not get a doctor's help, on my own to very slowly no longer take it, and it took me some years to get off of this stuff, my whole life changed, and I moved into alignment, and my abilities were turned back on from the time they were when I was a child. Everything changed, but I can't tell you how horrible it was to be forced to stay in a situation that I knew was wrong, that was neglectful, that was abusive, that was everything that would make anyone sick. And it just wasn't right. The whole situation wasn't right, yet I was too afraid to look at it. And the pills that I took allowed me to not look at it, but it also nearly killed me emotionally. Emotionally, it had me so suppressed. It was a big problem, became a big problem. So that's my 2 cents, not medical advice, but it's what I've seen.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is the Great Awakening. Hazardous chemicals that are FDA approved. And here's a big list. And this is not, everything. There's more. But wait, yes, absolutely, there is more. Anything from dyes and, of course, high fructose corn syrup, all these different items that you got to wonder, why do they bother to put it in there? Talking about holes in brains, sucralose. It's just why? These things are totally okay according to the Food and Drug Administration. Again, I always love to look at what these things stand for. Food and Drug Administration, administering foods and drugs. And Centers for Disease Control, controlling disease. Again, it's very, very telling when you look at things closely. So can we trust our health with the authorities. And of course, FIVEG, it's been again said, that's just disinformation. There's nothing wrong with it. And yet we can see with our own eyes trees that are dead, that are close by it. We can see there's tumors popping up everywhere. They don't deny the fact that turbo cancers and cancers of all sorts are through the roof. And they exploded in different waves, but one wave was around 2019 and one was several years after that. Well, again, the rollout of all these towers, that coincides, and then there was something else that happened. And then what do we have? We have little ones having conditions that were so rare you barely saw it, and when you saw it, it was a tragedy that broke your heart. Now, just the statistics are overwhelming to see the amount of people that are coming down with cancers of all different ages. It's obviously environmental toxins. And again, if we are to trust those those power structures that are in place, well, how did it work out for the Romans? Going back to the Romans. It started with lead and ended with all things that lead to lead. Insidious creep of lead poisoning into the Roman bloodstream, a consequence of the shift from terracotta to lead piping for water transport. Why in the world would you have your water going through lead? I mean, that's just insanity. Yet it was what the Roman Empire decided to do. This absolutely played a significant, yet often overlooked by the historians, role in the decline and eventual apparent fall of the Roman Empire. This transition seemingly advanced in infrastructure delivered not only water, but also a potent neurotoxin directly into the heart of Roman society, subtly eroding its intellectual and demographic strength over generations. Lead's devastating impact on cognitive function is well documented. It disrupts neurotransmission, impairing reasoning, problem solving, and overall intellectual capacity. Imagine a society gradually losing its sharpest minds, its ability to innovate, to strategize, to govern efficiently. The slow poisoning of intellect spanning generations likely contributed to the empire's growing instability and vulnerability. Populations struggling with diminished cognitive function is less capable of addressing complex challenges, making sound judgments, and maintaining the sophisticated systems that underpin a vast empire. Beyond the mental decline, lead's insidious effects also targeted the Roman population's reproductive health. Well, wait a minute. Aren't we having a reproductive crisis? Certainly Elon keeps bringing that up. Miscarriages, just infertility in general, sperm count decline. The actual sperm in males is just a tiny fraction of what it was. So all these things we're seeing happening again. This demographic impact compounding over time would have significantly weakened the empire's manpower, both in terms of military strength and the civilian workforce necessary to sustain its complex infrastructure and economy. My gosh, doesn't this sound like today? A shrinking population base coupled with diminished intellectual capability creates a perfect storm for societal collapse. Wow, it's just like reading headlines from today. The parallels to modern society are chilling. While lead pipes are largely a relic of the past in developed nations, we continue to grapple with the pervasive presence of environmental toxins, microplastics, pesticide, industrial chemicals contaminate our food, water supplies, raising concerns about potential long-term health consequences, including cognitive impairment and reproductive issues. Are we, like the Romans, unknowingly poisoning ourselves and future generations? Are we witnessing a subtle decline in cognitive function and reproductive health, the consequences of which may not fully manifest for decades or centuries? What is the new lead? The science is clear on the dangers of lead. Studies have shown its detrimental effects on neurological development in children, leading to lower IQ scores, attention deficits, learning disabilities. In adults, lead exposure can cause a range of neurological problems, including memory loss, mood disorders, peripheral neuropathy. Furthermore, lead is known to disrupt endocrine function, impacting both male and female fertility. The CDC and WHO provide extensive information on the health effects of lead poisoning. And why is it still a problem if they're giving us all these, things on lead? Well, then why not also look at the modern day, right? It would have been a life-ending moment to announce to the world that lead was slowly killing the Romans, and so those who knew kept it quiet. The fall of the Roman Empire was a complex process with multiple contributing factors. However, the gradual poisoning of its population through lead exposure, resulting in diminished cognitive function and reproductive health, deserves recognition as a significant contributing factor. It serves as a stark reminder of the importance of safeguarding our environment and understanding long-term consequences of our choices, lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. Experts always know better until they don't, and then often they're afraid to admit that they got it wrong. So what is the new lead? Oh, there's more than one. There is more than one. Absolutely. Guys, again, this is a little light in the darkness. There's a smile for you. Are we going to be are we going to have the same IQs as fish? Again, I don't think we have IQs as high as dolphins and whales in many cases. That's really the reality.
We really need to work on detoxing. And again, do not take any of this as medical information, as we are not doctors. But it is a situation, and many people are struggling with the medicines that they're on right now. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's not like you can just go off of anything. You have to do it very carefully, and it could take years. And if this is something that you think you want to do, just go work with your doctor and take the time that you need. But it's a pretty serious problem, because it seems like if you are at least the age of 50, you're on a minimum of 3 or 4 different types of pills that probably have lead and fluoride in them. And then also formaldehyde, which sucks the calcium out of your bones. It's very, very bad for your bones. So it's a serious problem, and it's not easy remedied, but we have been able to help a lot of people at least get pointed in the right direction. But again, we're not doctors.
No, we're not, but we do care about our health, and we are people that are 59 and 51 respectively that do exercise pretty much every single day. If we don't exercise, it's because we're physically doing hard physical labor outdoors usually. So we realize that you have to pump the blood. You have to take care of your temple. Your body is your temple. We also do mantras every single day, a form of meditation. We do yoga and Qigong. We prioritize all these things because, without your physical temple, and that includes your brain being able to function, you start to just lose touch with everything. We do not eat anything that's GMO. We eat only organic. We pay the extra and specifically look to go and get foods locally from people that we know as much as possible. So we recognize that everything out there is a potential toxin. And yes, you can't escape it. But knowingly taking in something that is labeled as a toxin, if it starts with a 4 or a 5 in the produce aisle, that again is what they call conventional or GMO. Again, 4 is conventional, 5 is GMO, if I remember right? And then 9 is organic. So again, you want to strive to stay as organic as possible. And really, there's so many people out there that just don't get it because their minds are not functioning sharp enough. The other tool that we use doesn't cost you anything, and that's fasting or intermittent fasting. Again, everybody has different capabilities there. I do think probably the easiest way for most people is intermittent fasting. Your body only breaks down cancerous materials when you give it rest from digestion. If you're constantly eating, and when I say constantly, your body needs about 16 hours. 12 hours, you start to get some effects. 12 hours without food, you start to get some effects start to kick in. 16, it really does start to get rid of the things that it needs to get rid of, break down the cancerous cells. If you don't ever give it a rest, you're never going to get rid of those things, and then this is when toxic overload happens. Also, you will find that you think clearer, that you feel better. Things like allergies are not normal. Allergies aren't normal. And so that's an inflammation response. This is all part of what slowly killed the Romans, and it is, again, doing the same thing to us.
Mm-hmm. So give yourself, know that you're in a very challenging situation just being in this 3D world, in this yuga. Give yourself a lot of time, give yourself a lot of love. Sit down, take a minute to check in with you. I think what's really lacking in this world is self-love. And people don't even know how to love themselves. It should be something that's so basic and elementary, but really sit down and check in with yourself, because that's what we should do, and give yourself plenty of grace, plenty of space, plenty of time to go through this healing. And it's one thing that I certainly don't regret, is taking the time and the years for myself, and I'm still at it. So work in progress.
Absolutely. As always, guys, much love. Thank you so much for your support. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.